There are some truths that burn hotter than any flame, and young Kofi learned this as he stood at the forest's edge, watching his village turn his life to ash. The evening sky glowed orange with anger as the flames devoured everything: his grandmother's ancient scrolls, her weather tools, the family shrine that had honored the ancestors for generations. Chief Adissa himself threw the final torch, his arm raised high like a warrior claiming victory. The elders circled him, their faces carved from stone and judgment. Elder Mensa's voice rose above the roaring fire. Let this be a lesson. Those who stand against progress will be removed. Young Kofi searched the crowd for his childhood friend Amma. There she stood, tears streaming down her face like the rains they all desperately needed. But her mouth stayed closed. She would not speak for him. No one would. The boys he'd played with as a child now held torches and smiled as his world burned. As the guards chased him toward the wilderness, Kofi turned back one final time. If only you knew, his heart whispered to them. If only you knew what Baba Thunder really is. What he's doing to you. What's coming. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my folktale story from. I want to know how far it has traveled. Let me take you back 6 months to when this darkness first cast its shadow. The village of Takuma was dying, not quickly, but slowly, like a leaf curling in the merciless sun. 8 months the drought had gripped their land. 8 months without mercy. The wells that had served their grandfathers' grandfathers ran dry for the first time in living memory. Crops turned brown, then to dust. I remember the children. Oh, the children, crying from thirst, their lips cracked and bleeding like the earth itself. Mothers had no milk. The river that had flowed since the beginning of time became nothing but cracked mud and the bodies of dying fish. They buried 3 elders that month, their bodies dried like old leather, left too long in the sun. Kofi was 23 summers old then, trying desperately to keep his grandmother's farm alive. Each morning before the sun rose, he would check the sky for clouds. Each morning brought the same cruel, cloudless blue that mocked their suffering. When Chief Adissa called the meeting, he spoke what they all knew in their bones. Their village was dying, and they had no answer. Then, as if summoned by their desperation itself, a stranger appeared. It was high noon when he arrived at the village gates, tall, commanding, draped in elaborate robes of deep blue and gold. His staff bore bronze symbols of thunder and lightning. His voice rang clear and strong across the dying land. I am Baba Thunder, and I have come to bring you rain. The entire village gathered in the square to witness what would happen next. Baba Thunder stood in the center, his robes flowing even though no wind stirred the heavy air. He raised his staff high and began to chant in a language that belonged to no people they knew. His voice grew louder, filling the air with strange rhythms. He danced in circles, his feet striking the ground in patterns that seemed older than time itself. 3 times he struck his staff against the earth, and each time, thunder boomed across the valley, thunder where no clouds existed. Then, my children, something impossible happened. The cloudless sky began to change. Clouds formed from nothing, gathering, darkening, growing thick with promise. Within 1 hour, the sky was black. Within 2 hours, rain began to fall. Not gentle rain, but heavy downpour that soaked them all to the bone. People wept with joy. Children danced in puddles that formed in the dust. Laughter, that precious sound, filled the village for the first time in months. Chief Adissa fell to his knees before Baba Thunder and declared him a gift from the gods themselves. He offered the finest hut, a place of honor beside his own. The village celebrated deep into the night, grateful their prayers had finally been answered. Kofi celebrated too, at first. How could he not? But as he stood in that downpour, something felt wrong. The rain was cold, not cool like rain should be, but ice cold, almost burning against his skin. You see, Kofi had inherited a gift from his grandmother, Nana Ya, who had been the village's rain caller for 40 years. She had taught him to hear the sky's voice, to sense weather patterns, to read the language of clouds and wind. It wasn't magic exactly, but a deep spiritual connection to the natural world. That night, his gift screamed at him that something was terribly wrong. This rain had not come naturally. It had been pulled from somewhere it should not have been taken. The balance felt broken, twisted, unnatural. When he returned home, he lit a candle at his grandmother's shrine. The spirit stone she had given him, a smooth black rock passed down through generations, was glowing hot in its bowl. She had taught him this was a warning, a message from the ancestors that danger walked among them. Weeks passed, and Baba Thunder performed his ceremonies every 10 days. Each time, the rain fell exactly as he promised. The village transformed before their eyes. Dead crops grew green and tall. Empty wells filled to overflowing. The river flowed again, and fish returned to its waters. But something else was changing too. Chief Adissa now consulted Baba Thunder on every major decision. People brought him gifts, the finest yams, the best palm wine, chickens, and goats. He blessed marriages and babies. He told farmers when to plant and harvest. His power grew beyond calling rain. He became more important than the elders, more respected than the traditional priests. The young people especially loved him because he represented progress, new ways, power over nature itself. But Kofi noticed something disturbing. Those who spent the most time near Baba Thunder began to change. They grew impatient with traditional ways. They dismissed the wisdom of the ancestors as old superstition. They wanted everything immediately, without waiting for proper seasons. His friend Amma started helping Baba Thunder prepare his ceremonial items. When Kofi mentioned the changes he saw, she laughed. Why should we wait for seasonal rains when Baba Thunder can bring rain whenever we need it? The old ways are finished, Kofi. So Kofi began investigating quietly, as a wise person must when the crowd has lost its way. After each ceremony, Kofi collected rainwater samples in clay pots. The water was always ice cold, even when the air was warm. When he poured it on his garden plants, they grew quickly, but their roots stayed shallow and weak, like a house built on sand instead of stone. After several weeks, he discovered something else. The rainwater left a faint gray residue at the bottom of his containers, like ash mixed with fine dust. Natural rainwater had never done this. He took his findings to Elder Mensa, the keeper of village traditions. Surely he would understand. Kofi showed him the gray residue, explained about the cold temperature and the shallow roots. He asked if Elder Mensa thought Baba Thunder's rain was truly natural. But Elder Mensa's face hardened with anger. He pushed the clay pots away. Your grandmother's time has passed, boy. We have a real rain caller now, someone with actual power. Don't let jealousy poison your heart. Baba Thunder has saved us, and you dishonor him with these accusations. Kofi left feeling more alone than a single tree in an empty field. Despite all the rain, something made no sense. The river continued to drop lower each week. Kofi checked the water level against marks his grandfather had carved into rocks decades ago. Even with all this rain falling, the river was dying. The mathematics didn't work. They were getting heavy rain every 10 days, but the river dropped as if they were still in drought. The water had to be going somewhere, disappearing to some place he couldn't see. So Kofi decided to follow the river upstream to its source in the mountains. The journey took 2 full days of walking. When he finally reached the sacred wells, 7 ancient springs that had fed their river since the beginning of time, his heart sank with horror. All 7 wells were nearly dry. The water that should have flowed strong was reduced to weak trickles. Around each well, carved into the rocks and earth, were strange symbols that pulsed with a dark energy he could feel without even touching them. Kofi knelt beside the largest well and prayed to the ancestors. These sacred wells had never failed, not even in the worst droughts of legend. Yet now they were dying. And he knew, deep in his bones, this was connected to Baba Thunder's ceremonies. The rain caller was not calling rain from the sky. He was stealing it from the sacred wells. Back in the village, Kofi began watching the animals and insects, for they are often wiser than humans who think themselves clever. Before each of Baba Thunder's ceremonies, birds would flee the area. Insects would burrow deep into the ground. Dogs and goats would run for shelter, even before the ceremony began. It was as if they sensed something dangerous coming, something unnatural that frightened them at a level deeper than reason. After each ceremony, dead fish would float in the ponds. Small animals, mice and frogs, would be found stiff and cold, even though the weather remained warm. Kofi's old hunting dog, Kwame, had been with him for 12 years. He was brave and loyal, afraid of nothing. But he refused to go near the village square where Baba Thunder performed. One evening, as Kofi walked home, Baba Thunder passed close to his hut. Kwame's reaction was immediate and terrifying. He growled low in his throat, his fur standing straight up. He backed away from Baba Thunder, teeth bared, making sounds Kwame had only made around dangerous snakes. When Baba Thunder was gone, the dog pressed against Kofi's legs, shaking with fear. Animals know things humans often miss, my children. They sense danger that we explain away with clever words. Kwame's fear told Kofi what he already suspected in his heart. Baba Thunder was not what he appeared to be. Kofi could remain silent no longer. Truth, when it sits heavy in the chest, must eventually find its voice. During the next village gathering, he stood before everyone and challenged Baba Thunder publicly. His hands shook as he spoke, but his voice stayed strong. He presented everything he had discovered: the ice-cold rain, the gray ash residue, the dying sacred wells, the animals fleeing before each ceremony. Baba Thunder is not calling rain from the sky, Kofi declared. He is stealing water from the sacred wells, from the sources that have fed us for generations. This is not natural rain. This is theft, and we will pay a terrible price for it. The village square erupted, but the anger was not directed at Baba Thunder. It was aimed at Kofi like arrows seeking their target. People shouted insults and curses. Women spat on the ground near his feet. Men he had known all his life called him a liar and a traitor. Chief Adissa stood and pointed his staff. How dare you speak against the man who saved us? How dare you attack our benefactor with these wild accusations? Through it all, Baba Thunder stood calm and unbothered, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. When the shouting died down, he spoke in a gentle, patient voice. The boy is jealous that I have the power his grandmother could never give him. Forgive him, my people, for he knows not what he says. That night, as Kofi sat alone in his hut feeling the weight of hopelessness, there came a soft knock at his door. Amma slipped inside, terrified, glancing over her shoulder. Kofi, I need to tell you something, she whispered, her hands shaking. But you must never say that I told you. While preparing Baba Thunder's ceremonial chamber, she had discovered a hidden room behind a woven mat. Inside were dozens of clay jars on shelves, each labeled with a date. Dates of ceremonies stretching months into the future, all carefully planned. Inside the jars was water unlike any she had ever seen. Dark, almost black, thick like honey. Ice cold to the touch. Each jar sealed with wax carved with strange symbols. He told me if I ever spoke of what I saw, the rain would stop forever, and it would be my fault, Amma said, tears running down her face. Kofi, I'm so scared. What is he? What is he really? Before Kofi could answer, footsteps sounded outside. Amma's eyes went wide with terror. She fled through the back door and disappeared into the darkness. When Kofi opened his front door, no one was there. But hanging from his doorframe was a small bundle of dried herbs tied with black string, a traditional curse marker, a warning that he was marked for punishment. That night, Kofi performed the ritual his grandmother had taught him to commune with her spirit. He lit 7 candles in a circle, burned sacred herbs, and spoke the old words she had made him memorize. For a long time, nothing happened. Then the air grew cold, and mist began to form in the center of his hut. His grandmother's spirit appeared, but she was agitated, flickering like a candle in wind. She could not fully manifest, as if something was blocking her. Her voice came in broken fragments. Kofi, not rain. This is theft. The wells, the debt grows larger. He is not human. The sky grows angry with us. Kofi reached toward her. Grandmother, what do I do? How do I stop him? Please tell me. But before she could answer, her spirit was violently torn away, as if invisible hands had grabbed her from the other side. She screamed, a sound of pain and terror that made his blood run cold. Her final words echoed through the hut, find the cave of first rain. Before the debt. Then silence. Complete silence. Kofi looked down at the spirit stone in his hand, the one she had passed to him. A crack ran down its center, splitting it in two. His connection to her had been severed. He was truly alone now. Meanwhile, the village prospered like never before. Baba Thunder increased his ceremonies to every 7 days. Harvests broke all records. They had more food than they could eat. Traders came from distant villages to buy their surplus, bringing wealth they had never known. Chief Adissa ordered the construction of a grand temple for Baba Thunder, built with the finest wood and decorated with gold. The village became famous across the region. People from other drought-stricken areas came begging Baba Thunder to visit them, but he always refused, saying his place was with Takuma. They became proud and arrogant, convinced they had discovered the secret to controlling nature itself. Young people mocked other villages that still waited patiently for seasonal rains. They thought themselves smarter, more advanced, blessed by the gods. But Kofi saw what others refused to see. Natural rain, the kind that comes gently with the changing seasons, the kind that falls without ceremony or command, had completely stopped. The rain now came only when Baba Thunder called it and stopped immediately when his ceremony ended. The village had become totally dependent on him for every single drop of water. And that dependence was exactly what he wanted. Kofi decided to make one final, desperate attempt to warn his people. During Baba Thunder's next ceremony, as the crowd gathered, he pushed through to the center and stood directly in front of the rain caller. "Please listen to me," he begged. "Baba Thunder is creating a debt with the sky. He is stealing from the sacred wells, taking water that does not belong to him. Nature keeps balance. What is taken must be repaid. We are building a debt that will destroy us all." He pleaded with them to stop the ceremonies, to return to natural cycles, to wait for real rain that comes in its proper season. He explained that abundance taken by force always comes with a price. Chief Adissa's face turned purple with rage. "Enough. I have heard enough of your lies and jealousy." The elders voted right there in front of everyone. The decision was unanimous. "Kofi, son of the rain caller Nana, you are declared an enemy of this village's prosperity and peace. You must publicly renounce your accusations and beg Baba Thunder's forgiveness, or you will be exiled from Takuma forever." The crowd waited in silence. All eyes turned to Kofi. He looked at Baba Thunder, who smiled at him with cold, patient eyes. Kofi stood straight and spoke clearly, "I will not renounce the truth." The sentence was carried out at sunset the next day. The entire village gathered to witness the punishment. Chief Adissa gave the order, and young men, boys Kofi had played with, hunted with, shared meals with, picked up torches, and surrounded his hut. They threw the torches onto his roof. The dry thatch caught fire instantly. Within minutes, flames consumed everything. His grandmother's precious scrolls turned to ash. Her weather instruments, passed down through 5 generations, melted in the heat. The family shrine collapsed in a shower of sparks. The crowd cheered as if watching a celebration. Children clapped. Women ululated. Men raised their fists in triumph. They truly believed they were protecting their prosperity by destroying him. Baba Thunder stood at the front of the crowd, his face serene in the firelight. He watched Kofi's entire life burn with the calm expression of someone watching clouds pass overhead. As guards grabbed Kofi's arms and forced him toward the forest, he turned back one last time. In that moment, he saw something that made his heart stop. Baba Thunder's shadow stretched long behind him in the firelight. But the shadow did not match his body. It was larger, more monstrous, with multiple arms reaching upward toward the sky, like a demon grasping for heaven. Then, in a blink, it snapped back to normal. No one else had seen it. Kofi wandered through the wilderness for 3 days with nothing but torn clothes on his back. No food, no water, no shelter. The sun burned during the day. The cold bit through him at night. He walked without direction, lost in despair. On the 3rd night, as he lay beneath a tree ready to die, his grandmother's spirit found him again. Away from the village, away from Baba Thunder's suppressing power, she could reach him. "Kofi, my precious grandson," she said, her voice filled with love and urgency. "There is still hope. You must go to the cave of first rain. It lies far to the north, beyond the ashlands. There you will learn the full truth about Baba Thunder and the way to fight him." Kofi sat up slowly, his body aching. "Grandmother, I have nothing left. I'm not strong enough." She knelt beside him and touched his face with her ghostly hand. "You are stronger than you know. You carry the gift without greed in your heart. That is what Baba Thunder fears most, someone who cannot be corrupted." Her face became grave. "But you must hurry, Kofi. The debt is almost full. When it reaches completion, the sky will demand payment, and the price will be more terrible than you can imagine." The journey to the cave of first rain took Kofi through the ashlands, a vast wasteland where nothing grows and nothing lives. The ground was cracked and gray, stretching endlessly in all directions. The sun beat down without mercy. There was no shade, no water, no relief. He learned why this place was called the Ashlands. Centuries ago, a village here had tried to control the weather through dark magic. They had demanded rain without respect, commanded the sky without humility. The sky's punishment had been absolute, eternal drought, turning everything to ash and dust. As he walked, Kofi saw skeletons of those who had come before him. Rain callers from across the generations, seekers of weather magic, all lying where they had fallen. Their bones picked clean by sun and wind. Some still clutched their ceremonial staffs, dead fingers wrapped around useless wood. On the second day, he found a dying man beneath the skeleton of a dead tree. He wore robes that identified him as a rain priest from a distant land. His lips were cracked and bleeding. Kofi knelt beside him and gave him the last drops of water from his pouch. The man grabbed his wrist with surprising strength and pulled him close. "Baba Thunder," he gasped. "He came to our village too. We celebrated him. We thought we were blessed, until the debt came due." His grip tightened. The sky sent fire instead of rain. Everyone burned, everyone. His eyes went distant, and with a final shudder, he died. Kofi closed the man's eyes and continued walking, his fear growing with every step. He reached the cave of first rain as the sun was setting on his fourth day of travel. The cave entrance was carved into the side of a mountain, surrounded by ancient stone markers covered in symbols he recognized from his grandmother's teachings. Inside, the walls were covered with paintings that told a story. Kofi walked slowly through the passages, studying each image by the light of bioluminescent moss that grew on the ceiling. The paintings showed the proper relationship between humans and weather, patience, respect, balance, and gratitude. He saw images of the first rain callers, humble people who asked the sky for rain rather than demanded it. He saw pictures of communities that waited for proper seasons and were blessed with abundance. At the center of the cave was a pool of crystal clear water that seemed to glow with its own light. Despite the drought outside, this pool was full and pure. Kofi knelt beside it, thirsty beyond words, but afraid to drink without permission. As his fingers touched the water's surface, visions exploded in his mind. The visions showed him the birth of Baba Thunder centuries ago. He was not born from a mother or created by any god. He was formed from humanity's own darkness, from every moment of impatience, every demand for immediate satisfaction, every attempt to control nature rather than live in harmony with it. All of that collective greed and impatience gathered together and took shape, becoming a spirit of drought and destruction. The more humans tried to force nature to obey them, the stronger Baba Thunder became. Long ago, a council of true rain callers had discovered what he was. They fought him in a great spiritual battle that lasted 7 days and 7 nights. Many died, but together they managed to bind him and seal him deep in the earth. They warned future generations, never try to control nature, only cooperate with it. But seals weaken over time. As generations forgot the old warnings, as people became more impatient and demanding, cracks appeared in Baba Thunder's prison. He found ways to slip through, to influence the world, to plant seeds of greed that would eventually free him. The vision showed Kofi something that made his blood run cold. Baba Thunder had done this before. 7 times across the centuries, he had come to drought-stricken villages. 7 times he had saved them, made them dependent, and led them to destruction. Kofi saw the burned ruins, the mass graves, nothing left but ash and bones. His village, Takuma, was the 8th. A new presence filled the cave, the ghost of the first rain caller, the woman who had originally learned to speak with the sky. She was ancient and wise, her form glowing with gentle light. "You have seen the truth, Kofi," she said. "Now, you must learn the way to stop him. But I warn you, the path is dangerous and the cost is high." She taught him the true rain-calling ritual, the original ceremony that his grandmother had begun to teach, but died before completing. It was nothing like Baba Thunder's dramatic performances. It was simple, humble, and required perfect spiritual balance. The ritual called for the rain caller to offer something precious to the sky during the moment of greatest drought. Not as payment or bargain, but as a gift freely given out of pure love. If the offering was sincere, made without any selfishness or fear, the sky would respond with natural rain and forgiveness. But understand this, the first rain caller said gravely. Baba Thunder will sense the moment you attempt this ritual. He will try to stop you with all his power. The confrontation will be both physical and spiritual. You will face him in his true form, and if your heart wavers even slightly, if doubt or fear enters your mind, he will consume you completely. She placed her ghostly hand over his heart. The offering you must make is not something you carry with you. Is something you are. Think carefully about what that means, Kofi, and choose wisely when the time comes. Kofi left the cave of first rain carrying a small vial of sacred water from the glowing pool and the knowledge of the true rain calling ritual. The journey back took 5 days. As he traveled, he noticed the sky changing in disturbing ways. Dark clouds gathered above his village in the distance, but they moved wrong. They swirled against the natural wind patterns, churning and twisting. Yet no rain fell from them. Lightning flashed within the clouds, but brought no water. The sky itself looked angry, gathering its vengeance. On the last day of his journey, he encountered people fleeing from Takuma. They were desperate, carrying whatever possessions they could manage. Children cried from thirst. The elderly could barely walk. Kofi stopped a family he recognized. What happened? 7 days ago, Baba Thunder performed his greatest ceremony yet, the father told him. He promised the most abundant rain we had ever seen. He danced for hours. He chanted until his voice grew hoarse. But when he struck his staff for the final time, nothing happened. The mother continued, her voice breaking. Not a single drop of rain fell. The clouds gathered like always, but they gave us nothing. Since then, the sky has been black with clouds that refuse to release water. The wells have gone completely dry. People are dying of thirst, Kofi. And Baba Thunder says he needs time to prepare something special to fix it. The debt had come due. The sky was demanding payment. Kofi snuck back into Takuma under cover of darkness and hid in abandoned storage huts. What he saw broke his heart. The village that had been so prosperous just weeks ago was now dying faster than during the original drought. People fought each other over the last drops of water. Families that had been friends for generations now refused to share. Children lay weak in their mother's arms. The crops that had grown so green were now withered and brown again, worse than before. That night, Amma found him in his hiding place. She fell into his arms, crying with relief and fear. Kofi, it's terrible. People are dying. Chief Adissa has sent search parties everywhere looking for you. She told him what Baba Thunder had announced. The drought was punishment from the sky for how they had treated Kofi. He said Kofi had offended the rain spirits, and now those spirits demanded justice. The only way to restore the rain was to find Kofi, bring him back, and make him publicly apologize. He says you must kneel before him in front of everyone and acknowledge him as the supreme rain caller, Amma explained, her voice shaking. Only then will he attempt the ceremony again. Kofi, I know he's lying. I know he's evil. But people are dying. What can we do? Kofi held her hand and made his decision. I'm going to let them find me, but not to apologize. To end this. Kofi walked into the village square the next morning as the sun rose. Word spread quickly, and within an hour, the entire village had gathered. Chief Adissa arrived with the elders, and Kofi saw how much they had changed. They were thinner, weaker, humbled by suffering. Chief Adissa approached with tears in his eyes. Kofi, we were wrong. We were so terribly wrong. Please forgive us. The elders knelt before him, something they had never done for anyone except the gods. We will rebuild your hut with our own hands, Elder Mensa said. We will restore your family's honor. We will give you anything you ask. Just please apologize to Baba Thunder, so the rain will return. Our children are dying. The crowd murmured in agreement, desperate and pleading. Then Baba Thunder appeared, walking slowly through the parted crowd. He looked exactly the same, calm, powerful, untouched by the suffering around him. He stood before Kofi with a patient, benevolent smile. Dear Kofi, he said in a voice like honey, these good people have learned their lesson. I am willing to forgive you for your ignorance and accusations. Simply kneel before me, acknowledge my power, and ask my forgiveness. Then I will bring the rain again, and all will be well. The crowd held its breath, waiting for Kofi's answer. Kofi looked at Baba Thunder's face, at his cold eyes behind the gentle smile. Then he spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. I will not kneel to you, and I will tell these people the truth about what you really are. Now, my children, this is where the story takes its darkest turn. Hold close to each other as I tell you what happened next. Baba Thunder's smile finally cracked. His eyes flashed with inhuman rage. You dare? You dare speak against me? I who saved them. Then let me show you all what I truly am. His body began to change. His skin turned gray like ash. His form stretched taller and more angular, losing all human softness. His voice became multiple voices speaking at once, the voices of every person who had ever demanded rain instead of asked for it. I am born from your impatience, he roared at the terrified crowd. Every time you cursed the dry season instead of accepting it, you fed me. Every time you demanded instead of waited, you made me stronger. Every time you tried to control nature instead of cooperate with it, you gave me power. His true form was horrible to see, a towering figure of ash and shadow, with multiple arms reaching upward like tree branches grasping at the sky. The villagers screamed and tried to run, but they were frozen with terror. "I gave you exactly what you wanted." Baba Thunder continued, his voice shaking the ground. "Rain without patience. Harvest without proper season. Abundance without balance. And now the bill comes due." He turned to face the crowd with burning eyes. "Do you know what debt you've created? Every unnatural rain that fell was stolen from your future. For each ceremony I performed, 1 year of natural rain was taken away. I performed ceremonies for 6 months. That means you have sold away 30 years of rain." The crowd gasped in horror. 30 years. An entire generation would die of thirst. 30 years of drought. Baba Thunder laughed, the sound like thunder itself. "Your children's children will die knowing only dust. Unless—" He turned his burning gaze on Kofi. "Unless the one with the true gift offers himself completely. Surrender your gift to me, Kofi. Become my servant, and I will reduce the sentence to 10 years. Refuse, and watch everyone you love die slowly of thirst." The crowd turned to Kofi, their faces filled with desperate hope. Some began to beg, "Please, Kofi, save us. Whatever he wants, give it to him." Even Amma whispered, "Maybe it's the only way." But Kofi understood now what the first rain caller had meant. The offering he needed to make was clear. He stepped forward and began speaking the words of the true rain calling ritual, the ancient words his grandmother had taught him. Baba Thunder's face twisted with rage. "No, I will not allow it." He manifested as a massive storm of ash and dark wind, attacking Kofi with physical and spiritual force. The wind tore at Kofi's skin. The ash choked his lungs. But he kept speaking the ritual words, his voice growing stronger. Kofi raised his hands to the angry sky and spoke directly to it. "Great sky, hear me. I offer my gift back to you, everything I inherited from my grandmother. My ability to hear your voice, to sense the weather, to read the clouds. I offer it willingly, not in trade or bargain, but as payment for what was stolen. Take it all, but please, spare my people." Baba Thunder lunged at him, trying to intercept the gift, to steal it for himself. But the gift, offered in pure love without fear, burned him like acid. Kofi threw the sacred water from the cave of first rain on him, and it began to dissolve his form. He screamed. As Kofi's gift flowed out of him toward the sky, he felt it leaving like water draining from a vessel. His connection to the weather, his ability to sense the patterns, his grandmother's legacy, all of it rising up from his spirit and ascending to the heavens. The loss was painful, like losing a part of his soul. The sky split open with brilliant lightning. Rain began to fall, but it was mixed with fire. The sky's judgment had come, rain and lightning together, bringing both blessing and destruction. Parts of the village began to burn as lightning struck, the sky's vengeance for the broken contract. But then, spirits began to appear around Kofi. His grandmother's ghost materialized, along with the spirits of all the true rain callers who had come before. Together, they rose toward the sky and spoke on behalf of the village. Kofi could not hear their words, having lost his gift. But he saw the sky respond. The fire and the rain ceased. The lightning calmed. Gentle, warm, natural rain began to fall, the first real rain in nearly a year. Baba Thunder, weakened and burning from a sacred water, was grabbed by spirits of his previous victims, the ghosts of all those from the 7 villages he had destroyed. They dragged him down into the earth, sealing him once more in the deep places where he belonged. His screams faded into the distance until silence returned. Kofi's grandmother's spirit appeared before him one final time, glowing with love and pride. She smiled at him, and he felt her blessing wash over him like cool water on a hot day. Then the sky itself spoke, its voice like distant thunder, loud enough for everyone to hear. The debt is paid through the boy's sacrifice. But the lesson must be remembered. 30 years I would have taken. Because of his pure offering, I take only 3. For 3 years, rain will come only in its proper season, not early, not abundant, but sufficient. Learn patience. Learn balance. Learn to wait. The spirits faded like morning mist under the sun. The rain continued, gentle, warm, and completely natural. Kofi stood in it, feeling the water on his skin, but no longer hearing the sky's voice. His gift was gone forever. He was ordinary now like everyone else. But his village was saved. Chief Adissa and the elders fell to their knees before Kofi, weeping. The entire village knelt in the mud, crying with relief and shame. They begged his forgiveness and promised to honor both his grandmother's name and his forever. And you know what, my children? They kept their promise. They rebuilt his hut with their own hands, every man and woman contributing. They carved a memorial stone that read, Nana Ya and Kofi, those who heard the sky. It stands in the village square to this day, a reminder of what happens when we forget to wait, when we demand instead of ask. Kofi accepted their apology with grace, but he chose to live simply as a farmer. He could no longer hear the sky's voice, but he could teach young people the old ways of patience and respect. Amma stayed beside him through it all. Together, they started a school of traditional knowledge. Kofi couldn't sense weather patterns anymore, but he could teach others to wait for natural seasons, to read visible signs in clouds and wind, to respect the balance of nature. Years later, and this is how I like to end this story, Kofi stood in his field as gentle rain fell during its proper season. He could not sense the weather patterns anymore, the gift was gone. But he could feel the rain on his face and know it was real, natural, given freely by the sky in its own time. And he thought to himself, if only they had listened from the beginning. If only they had remembered that nature gives to those who wait, but destroys those who demand. But perhaps some lessons can only be learned through fire and thirst. He looked at the students gathering for their lesson, young faces eager to learn the old ways, and he smiled. The price had been high, yes. His gift was gone. But the wisdom would last for generations. That was enough. That was more than enough. The story you have just heard is a beautiful African tale I heard long ago. I'm telling you to wake your minds to the danger of impatience, the wisdom of respecting natural cycles, and the power of selfless sacrifice. If you were Kofi, would you have given up your precious gift to save people who had burned your home and cast you out? Would you choose the path of patience and balance, or would you be tempted by promises of control over nature? What does this story teach you about the difference between demanding and asking, between controlling and cooperating? I want to know your opinion because every story is like a candle that can light the path for someone else. In our modern world, we often want everything immediately, instant success, instant wealth, instant solutions. But nature teaches us that some things cannot be rushed. The rain comes in its season. The harvest comes after patient work. True abundance comes from balance, not from force. What debt are we creating in our own lives when we refuse to wait, when we demand instead of ask, when we try to control instead of cooperate? God bless you, and may patience guide your hands. Meanwhile, on the final screen, I am leaving you with one of the channel's most beloved folktales. I am sure it will surprise you. Thank you for staying with me until this moment.